I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with Linda Salerno-Forand. She is an insightful and tenacious author who is empowering readers in her book, You Have Time to Die and Go Broke, equipping them with strategies to navigate the treacherous terrain of the healthcare system without facing financial ruin. We are delighted to have Linda join us here today on Spotlight, and we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel. Linda, thank you so much for being our guest today on Spotlight.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be on the show and welcome everybody who's watching.
Yeah, thanks so much. Loved having you here. Let's talk first about your title. You Have Time to Die and Go Broke. It really catches your attention. Tell us what you mean. You have time to die and go broke.
Well, this embodies what the healthcare system is actually what's going on. I mean, you basically have to die and go broke before you can get help.
Yeah.
And so I was motivated to write this book because I wanted to help other people navigate the healthcare system. I want to help people get the best care that they can because they deserve it.
Yeah.
And there's like a disconnect between what we expect from our healthcare system and what we are receiving.
Right.
And it makes it very frustrating. And it's not just the actual person receiving the healthcare, but also the healthcare workers themselves
Mm.
because they want to be able to help, but they're getting bucked by the system.
Yeah.
And so it makes it frustrating for them. So I felt if I had this book, I could give a voice to the people receiving the healthcare, as well as a voice to people giving the healthcare. And I
Absolutely.
wanted them to have that voice and for them to understand, I hear you.
Mm.
I understand your frustration. There's no question.
Yeah.
And I want to help. And
Absolutely.
that's what got me to write the book.
And it is a big help. It is a roadmap for people trying to navigate this maze of a healthcare system that can be costly, that can be confusing. Tell us a little bit about how your personal or professional experiences shaped your insights in writing this book.
Um, my own dealing with the healthcare system for my own personal health.
Mhm.
And what I'm trying to understand is when I go to the doctors, I feel very much there's a one-on-one. I feel, and what you should feel as well, is that when you're there in the physician's office, it should be that one-on-one connection.
Hmm.
And a lot of people aren't getting that. They're getting gaslighted. Oh, you just got to, don't worry about it. And then, like, 6 months later, I'm and it's just like,
Exactly.
so to have that one on one connection, like a partnership,
Right.
that's what you want. You want a partnership when you go to the doctor's office. And that's what you should have.
Absolutely.
And that's what
Absolutely.
you deserve.
What
And
do
for
you
some
go ahead? I'm sorry.
reason, like when I dealt with my husband David, who had pulmonary fibrosis,
Mhm.
and like with my mom now, because I'm a caregiver for my mom,
Mhm.
I can't, for some reason, get that partnership. It's easier for me on my own, like with my healthcare, like for
Right.
me, compare, and so I wonder if it could be the aspect of their medical history and how the actual doctors deal with it compared to mine, or it's just the aspect of, I'm responsible for this person. So you're going to do what you're going to do,
Mm.
whether you like it or you're not. You're
Right.
going to answer my questions that I need answered. That I think with my healthcare, I don't feel as life threatening or as critical or as responsible as I do for someone that I'm caregiving for.
Yeah.
And so what happened is it started off that I married my husband. And so he had elderly parents, and his mom started having dementia, with Alzheimer's, and his heart wasn't all the best. So he only had a brother who ended up in a nursing home because he was mentally, his anxiety and his depression were so severe he couldn't take care of himself,
Mm.
and so it left it for me. So I learned a lot from that,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot from dealing with my husband with pulmonary fibrosis,
Mm.
because it started off he had a heart attack, then he couldn't work, and then he ended up and then things were stable, and then he ended up with pulmonary fibrosis.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from that, and
Yeah.
that's like insightful for me to to write the book.
Yeah. And those are tough lessons. You learn as you go along, how to navigate the healthcare system a little bit. But it's nice to have a book as a guide because you don't want to make mistakes. I know my mother also had pulmonary fibrosis.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And they were talking about intubating her and all this stuff, and she needed to be on a ventilator. And, if I had known a little bit more, I probably would have said no to the ventilator. I didn't realize it would be like such a prison for her in the last days of her life.
Yeah, what happens is it's really hard for the last stages of that life, because for you emotionally,
Yeah,
to see and deal, and having that, I mean, that's a huge responsibility,
yeah,
tremendous. So that's why physicians highly recommend that you have the form that says, like, do you want this?
right,
What people don't understand about that they will abide by that. But when you get towards the end of life, they actually will go through the whole thing
right.
again with you.
Yeah,
And also, what happens is that it starts off with the person who's end of life. If they're like able to take and say for themselves what they want, they'll abide by those wishes. But if they can't, then they go by the paperwork.
right.
And it was overwhelming for me.
Yeah,
There's just no question. And I'm sure it was overwhelming for you.
yeah,
It's sort of like
absolutely.
to make these massive decisions. And then it's sort of like, for me, I have to have all the info first
Right.
before I make that decision. And I felt so pressured, like, do it, do it, do it. And it's like,
Yeah,
I don't have all the info yet.
right,
I don't know how this treatment's working.
right,
Because in his case, I don't know what your mom's case, what happens is that he wasn't processing the CO2. He wasn't expelling it.
right.
Yeah. So he had to have like the special like mask that would
Hmm.
work. So, okay, is this working? Is it an aspect of, okay, how long does he have to have it? Does he have to just wear it at night, or does he have to wear it? Give me a chance to see how it's going to work.
Right.
See how a chance to have he minds wearing it. Give me. And I kept telling my mom, and they pressure me, they pressure me.
Yeah,
So I was talking to Dr. Maggie Pollard, and she says it's the aspect is you not only have to make these decisions, you got to process everything.
right.
And so for some people, they can process things better than other people, or like it
Yeah,
doesn't take as much time. For me, it takes a little time to process.
yeah. Yeah,
So
there's so much to learn at that point. You've got to like get a whole education on things you didn't know about, like gases from respiration. You had no idea what that's about before?
it was like right now they want you to go onto the portal. So I
Right.
try to call the doctor or the nurse and find out what's going on. And it's sort of like, so I get on the portal, like,
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, I did chemistry profiles.
Hmm.
for veterinary medicine. So I had
Oh,
some
okay.
aspect of what was going on, but still, you still have questions. So it's like, okay, how come he isn't responding?
Right.
What treatment do you want to do?
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Absolutely. Do you think a lot of it sometimes is the luck of the draw? You get in and you get a caring physician or a healthcare provider who is a little more communicative, is a little more open, who takes you by the hand, who explains things to you thoroughly?
I would think that it is, but the aspect of it is it's good to be able to do your homework,
Mm,
and that can, to be able to talk to, like, say, I remember this nurse that she's a neighbor, and she got on Facebook onto the association, go, listen, I have an opportunity to see this one or this one. Has
mm,
anybody gone to this one and this one?
right.
And they communicated back, and it was like, oh yeah, this one's real good. It's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So to go and to ask people what they, how what they think, of this physician, but that in itself is like daunting in respect to that. My mom had to change insurance.
Mm,
They it was or she had to change the physician, either one. So I went online. Well, I went and I called up the insurance company. Goes, can you give me the list of physicians that she can see with this insurance?
right.
Because the insurance said we're not taking these physicians anymore. It's like, seriously? But anyways,
Yeah.
so what happens? I got a list of like, this is useless.
Mm,
It was truly useless. So I said, Mom, the best thing, you have a primary care that you really like.
mm,
She's very thorough and she knows your history. So instead of starting all over again, why don't we just change insurances?
yeah.
I have this insurance, and I called up the primary care and I said to the primary care, it's like, what insurance do you take? Ta ta ta. Okay, sign my mom up, same as normal. And for her medical history and for her for mentally, that's the best thing for her.
Yeah.
But so you can you do it that that way. But it just, you can Google, like, thank God for Google. You can Google, okay, physicians in my area, and then do your homework and find out from there. And then, as I said, you can ask other people if they know these physicians, if they're good. Because my mom initially got the physician she got from a friend of hers.
Right.
Yeah.
Having a good primary care physician, I guess, is a good first step to accessing good medical care, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no, and what it is, it seems like when I was a baby, when I was a child, your primary doctor, your primary care, I mean, that doctor basically did everything.
Hmm.
And that was the day. Can you believe this? It's like, oh my God, that like my pediatrician,
Hmm.
it was a snowstorm. He walked all the way up the hill to my mom's house because I was driving my mom insane because I had an earache. You think the
Right.
doctor will do that now? Heck,
No
you can
way.
hear me now. Oh,
I know.
it's just like, so primary care today is coordinating your care, basically
Hmm.
what it is. Yeah, what they should do is, besides the partnership, and that's what you strive for in your primary care, is that they have all your history. So, okay, you need this test, this test, this test, you need to see this person. So they coordinate everything, but they're not going to give you like actual care. They're
Right.
kind of like a coordinator, but you want them to coordinate it properly. It's important.
Absolutely. They want them to send you to the right oncologist, the right neurologist, whatever the case might be, that you get the right care for your situation. What about the financial aspects of it? The copays add up after a while.
It's not
Some
even the
proceed.
copays. Let
Yeah.
me tell you something.
Okay.
The insurance companies, institutions need a major overhaul.
Yeah.
They run the healthcare system. And because, you would think copays, how much you pay for insurance, what they're going to pay, is so much more than that. It's insane.
Right.
Because what happens and what government's trying to do now is you have Medicaid and Medicare. Medicare pays a lot more to the hospitals than Medicaid.
Mm.
So what happens, because people always talk about Medicare, Medicaid. So what happens is if you have a hospital that tends mostly to lower income people on Medicaid, they can't afford to stay open. They can't because they rely on the money getting back from the insurance.
Mm.
So what happens is these hospitals close, creating an inequity among the care from lower class to upper class or middle class. And then they have to travel farther for their health care. Insurance also dictates who they're going to cover.
Mm.
So even if a physician wants, okay, I want to have this insurance and I want to have that insurance, the insurance company has their logarithm
Mm-hmm.
and they'll say, nope, it's not worth it. We're not going to have you in our system. If you want us to, normally we would say like we'll give you 60%, you pay 40%. We're gonna give you 20%.
Mm.
So they also too dictate prior authorization
Mm.
drives the doctors insane.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they have so much paperwork, so much dealing with the insurance company. And here's another tip. What happens when it deals with the insurance? I've had two doctors that are gurus dealing with the insurance company. So if you have doctors doctors that are gurus with the insurance company,
Mm-hmm.
hallelujah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's important. So in order to deal with this, what you want to do is first of all, when you go into the hospital, okay, if they open up a gauze and they don't use it, you're gonna get charged for it.
Right.
Um, and so you want to go over your bill. You can actually go to the hospital and say, I disagree with this, or work with them to see if you can do a budget plan.
Mm.
So that's kind of like a help. Also, next, for the prescriptions, what happens is they have grants, and I've gotten grants for one of my prescriptions, one of my husband's prescriptions. The To find out about these grants, you can actually ask your doctor. If you see a prescription ad and they say like, we can help you,
Right.
call them up, see if they can help you. So that can cut costs on your prescription. You can also, I guess I don't, because I'm fortunate to have a health insurance. I don't have one of those special prescription cards,
Right.
but you can check with the pharmacist and see, sort of like, okay, any discounts,
Yeah.
you can, yeah. So that's kind of also a way,
Mm-hmm.
but you have the right to dispute your claim.
Right.
You have that. So if you don't feel this is just, then call up the insurance company and say it. And they have, the bill, how you can do it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's good advice for sure, and it's particularly the pre-authorizations with medication. Some of the most beneficial cutting edge medicines have to have a pre-authorization, and sometimes you need those medicines right away. and you got to get back in touch with your doctor. They've got to call up the insurance company. It really is awful, because basically what the insurance company is doing is trying to make it difficult for you to get the more expensive drug.
Oh yeah, they're in it for the profit. There's no question.
Yeah.
And then what happens, what even complicates the system more, is you have the hospital, but then there's an organization that runs the hospital. The best example I can give is we have in Worcester, St. Vincent's Hospital. It's run by Tenant in Texas.
Right.
They had the longest nursing strike ever. They even went down to the headquarters in Tenant, and they'll say, "No, we're going to have nurses replace you."
Right.
They don't care, and they say they care, but the bottom line is money.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I have found some of the good RX cards, like you said, these membership
Yeah, that's
cards
what's on. Yeah,
are very, very helpful, because sometimes I'll have insurance and the drug will come back and it's still $358. But then you look on your good RX, website or on the app on your phone, and it might be $50 or $75. So
yeah,
that's a good
yeah.
backdoor savings, don't you think?
Oh, it's excellent recommendation.
Yeah.
It did. Go for it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about the wait? I know that bothers a lot of patients. They go to a doctor's office and they wait and wait and wait in the waiting room to get care. Any way to get around waiting so long to get your medical care?
Um, what you if you're in the emergency room, what happens is I've heard so many people say we just walk out.
Right.
So what happens is that you have to know who you're talking to.
Hmm.
So what happens is there's a nurse, you may think the nurse will see you right away, but she's actually triage.
Right.
So you want to know who you're talking to, and make sure that that triage nurse knows the whole situation. She's not blowing you over,
Right.
because that nurse is going to be the one that goes to the doctors. As far as waiting for appointments, that it basically is the system doesn't have enough helpers. They don't have enough nurses. They don't have enough doctors. Um, so if you're sick, you call in and then say, "Oh, well, you can't get an appointment to so and so." Well, that's why they have urgent care.
Right. True.
So if you're sick and the doctor doesn't have an appointment, but it's not life-threatening, it's not really an emergency, you can go in urgent care. There are more urgent cares kind of like opening up. So then that leaves the emergency room situation
Yeah.
where you're waiting in there. Um, if it's also really, sort of like I've had a situation whereby, okay, do I call an ambulance right now or what? Call the doctor's office and then they can help you make an assessment. But I mean, throughout this whole medical system, you have to speak up.
Mm.
You have to be tenacious,
Mm.
and you cannot, whatever, assume they're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. No, that's very, very true. You've got to be a good advocate for
So
yourself. Yeah.
you really have to be on top of things.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've gotten so frustrated. I was like, oh my God. I was like, and this is even for medical care.
Right.
I mean, for mental health.
Yeah.
And so what happens is I went one time and I'm there. My husband has like anxiety. It just runs through the family.
Hmm.
So as the last year of his life, he would have like 5 panic attacks a
Right.
day. And I couldn't, and it was like, oh, okay, well, you're not going to be able to see somebody in the next 4 months. Like, seriously, he's having 5 panic attacks. And so what happened is, one night he had a panic attack, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. You gotta get up to go to work, and I'm like, screw it, I'll call one of these crisis help. Oh, hi, you won't be able to talk to somebody for another 20 minutes. Calls out, well, he wants to go to the hospital. He wants to go to the hospital. Like, that's the whole deal. He has a panic attack, and he keeps wanting to go to the hospital. He doesn't need to go to the hospital. I took all his vitals. They're fine. Excellent. But he wants to go to the hospital. I was like, I
Awesome.
phone. I mean, you should see. I still had the phone. It's all taped up. I just got. It was sort of like I had it.
Yeah,
I'll do it myself, and
I
you
know.
shouldn't have to do that. If you call a crisis center, excuse me,
Right.
but you don't call that just for the fun of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like particularly when it comes to mental health issues, those are really the most sensitive, yet they're put on the back burner. I mean, if you have somebody who's suffering from depression or anxiety, like you pointed out, having a panic attack feels like you're dying. You feel like you're having a heart attack. People like that need help, and they need it immediately. They don't need it 6 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now or
Oh,
whenever the doctor can
some
see
of the
next.
medical health, or I try to be nice, but then it gets to the point. It's like enough.
Yeah.
You're being held accountable. You need to do your job. So what happened is they finally found an actual mental health person, but be, because you need to know what's going on first before you prescribe, because you're dealing with somebody's mind.
Hmm.
They said he had to go to this therapist. Goes
Right.
to the therapist, and what does he do? He has a panic attack right after it's finished. So after this happened 2 times, I went to the head person and said, listen, this isn't working. He's having a panic attack. He was having it right there.
Right.
I'm sorry, but he has to see, like, he has to go 3 times to a therapist first, and then he has to go, and then he'll see a psychiatrist if we can get a psychiatrist. Emergency
Unbelievable.
room. And you
Crazy.
wonder why the emergency room is filled up the way it is.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Was it rewarding for you writing this book, knowing you're going to help a lot of people who are dealing with similar struggles?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. And sometimes I wonder if it would help, but it was something that was important for me to do through my experiences, because I kind of like never want anybody to go through what I went through.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like no way. And it's not right that when we have to pay X amount for our insurance, and then we end up getting the care we care. That's not right.
Exactly.
And again, you talk about being frustrated. And again, the physicians are getting frustrated. I went one time, right? And so his lung doctor goes, well, he has this one result that says that he may have arthritis and that can affect the lungs. And so he has to see a rheumatologist. So it's like, okay. Hey,
Right.
but it's in Worcester, which is a half hour.
Right.
And I'm like, but he wasn't doing well. So
Right.
that's was a challenge.
Right.
So, but he has to go to them. I want somebody closer. No, he has to go. So get everything set up, the tanks, like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the tanks and everything. And so gets there. The rheumatologist goes, what's it here for? And I'm like, because one of his results show he has arthritis. I'm looking at this like, really? Yeah, they're not. He looks at it, it's like, this is equivocal. It really is not a definitive test result. I'm like, okay, so what are you here?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Because the doctor referred me, David, to you.
Gosh.
But I don't want him to get, it's like, call him.
Yeah.
Just on the phone, and I can just hear the background. You are number 8 in the queue. And
Huh.
he slams the phone down. And he said, screw it. I'll just put this in my report.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, Linda, you have done a great job in empowering people and helping people. The name of the book is You Have Time to Die and Go Broke. In the
Yes.
meantime, she's showing you how to access good quality healthcare in a timely fashion and in a manner that hopefully won't have you go broke. Linda, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today on Spotlight.
It's a pleasure too, and I wish you well and take care.
Oh, I appreciate it. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.
Yeah. So buy it before you need it. You have time
Exactly.
to die and go broke. Be
Exactly.
empowered.
Good advice.